The moment the doors opened at Raymond James Stadium, something extraordinary began to unfold. Something that no headline, no camera angle, and no social media clip could fully capture. It wasn't just the arrival of a global group. It was the arrival of a phenomenon. And at the center of it all stood Jungkook and the rest of BTS, stepping into a sea of emotion that had been building for years. Tampa didn't just welcome them. Tampa imploded. Long before the first sound check echoed through the stadium, the city had already transformed. Streets near the venue were lined with fans. Army who had traveled across states, across countries, and even across continents. Some had waited overnight, others for days. Their voices filled the air with chants, laughter, and anticipation that felt almost tangible. It was more than excitement. It was devotion. And when the first glimpses of BTS appeared during the pre-show greeting, everything changed. Fans screamed, not politely, not calmly, but with a raw intensity that seemed to rise from somewhere deep inside. The energy surged forward like a wave, crashing against the barriers, echoing through the open stadium. Phones shot into the air, hands trembled, tears fell freely. Because they were finally here. Jungkook stepped forward slightly, his expression a mix of focus and warmth. He looked out at the crowd, not over them, not past them, but into them, as if trying to connect with each individual face in a sea of thousands. And somehow, impossibly, it felt like he did. The banner stretched across the front, bright, colorful, almost celebratory, welcoming BTS to Tampa. But the truth was, it felt like BTS were the ones welcoming the fans into something bigger, something unforgettable. As the members stood together, there was a quiet strength in their presence. No elaborate choreography, no dramatic lighting, just 7 artists standing side by side, facing the people who had carried them through every era, every comeback, every challenge. And yet, even in that stillness, the impact was overwhelming. The chants began. BTS, BTS, BTS. Over and over, louder each time, until it felt like the stadium itself was vibrating. Jungkook's lips curved into a small smile, the kind that wasn't forced or performed but real, almost shy. He adjusted his grip on a microphone, bringing it closer, as if preparing to speak. But for a moment, he didn't. He simply listened. And that alone was enough to send the crowd into another frenzy. Because being seen, being heard, being acknowledged, that's what ARMY had always hoped for. And in that moment, it was clear that the connection went both ways. As the greeting continued, each member took their turn, their voices weaving together into a conversation that felt both massive and intimate at the same time. But whenever Jungkook spoke, something shifted. The reaction intensified. The cheers grew louder. The energy sharpened. It wasn't just about popularity. It was about presence. There was something about the way he carried himself, confident yet grounded, powerful yet soft, that drew people in without effort. Every movement, every glance, every word felt amplified, not because he tried to make it so, but because it naturally was. And Tampa responded. Fans held up signs, some simple, some intricate, all filled with messages of love, gratitude, and longing. Some read, "We waited for you." Others, "Welcome home," as if the distance between artist and audience had never truly existed. Because for ARMY, it hadn't. The pre-show greeting ended, but the energy didn't fade. If anything, it grew stronger. The anticipation for the main concert became almost unbearable. Tonight would be different. When the lights finally dimmed for the main performance, the transition was immediate and intense. The stadium plunged into darkness, and for a split second, there was silence, a rare, fragile silence that felt almost sacred. Then came a sound, a deep, resonant beat that rolled through the stadium like thunder, followed by a burst of light that illuminated the stage in a way that felt almost cinematic. The crowd erupted instantly, their voices merging into a single, deafening roar. And once again, Jungkook was at the center. From a very first movement, it was clear that this wasn't just a continuation of what had come before. It was an evolution. His movements were sharper, more deliberate. His vocals carried a depth that felt heavier, richer, more experienced. He wasn't just performing. He was telling a story. Each song flowed into the next with seamless precision, the stage transforming beneath his feet, the lighting shifting in ways that mirrored the emotional arc of the performance. And through it all, Jungkook remained the anchor, the force that held everything together. At one point, he ran along the extended runway, coming closer to fans who screamed his name with a desperation that bordered on disbelief. Some reached out, hands trembling, hoping for even the smallest connection, a glance, a wave, anything. And sometimes he gave it. A brief look, a quick smile, a moment that, for those who experienced it, would last a lifetime. But the true impact of the night wasn't just in the big moments. It was in the small ones, the pauses between songs, the way Jungkook would catch his breath, his chest rising and falling as he looked out at the crowd, the way his expression would soften when the fans sang along, their voices filling in the spaces between his own. It was a conversation without words, a connection that didn't need explanation, and Tampa felt every second of it. As the night progressed, the scale of the event became even more apparent. The lights, the visuals, the sheer number of people, all of it combined into something that felt almost unreal. Yet despite the enormity of it all, there was a sense of closeness that never faded. Because at its core, this wasn't about spectacle. It was about connection. And Jungkook understood that better than anyone. Near the end of the performance, the energy shifted once more. The intensity gave way to something softer, more reflective. The lights dimmed, the music slowed, and the massive stadium seemed to shrink into something more intimate. Jungkook stood at the center of the stage, alone for a moment, the spotlight resting gently on him. He lifted the microphone, his voice quieter now, but no less powerful. The crowd responded instinctively, their noise softening into a gentle wave of sound that supported rather than overwhelmed. And in that moment, everything felt still. It was as if time itself had paused, allowing everyone present to fully absorb what was happening, not just as spectators, but as participants in something meaningful. When the final notes faded and the performance came to an end, there was a pause, brief but heavy with emotion. Then the stadium erupted one last time, louder than ever before. Cheers, screams, tears. It all came crashing together in a final explosion of feeling that refused to be contained. Jungkook stood there, breathing heavily, his gaze sweeping across the crowd as if trying to take it all in. There was something in his expression, something that suggested this night meant just as much to him as it did to the fans. He bowed, deeply, and the crowd answered with everything they had left. As the lights came up and the stadium slowly began to empty, the energy didn't disappear. It lingered, in conversations, in laughter, in tears, in the countless videos already being shared across the world. Because what happened in Tampa wasn't just a concert. It was a moment where a city, a group, and millions of fans came together in a way that felt rare, almost impossible. And at the center of it all was Jungkook, steady, powerful, and unforgettable. Tampa didn't just host BTS. Tampa became part of their story. And for those who were there, one truth remained clear long after the lights went out. They hadn't just witnessed history. They had felt it.